What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new show that I am going to be doing with a buddy. I hope you guys are ready for this. If you are a wrestling fan, I think you are going to enjoy this because this used to be done on an old show called Basic Ass Dudes that we did, which was sadly pulled from YouTube and now is exclusively on Rumble. I'm in the works of trying to get that back on YouTube, but me and this anonymous person for right now talked about wrestling all the time, even when we weren't doing a podcast. And he said, hey man, let's do a podcast where we talk wrestling. I said, cool. So now this is what we're gonna do. So if you're a wrestling fan, I think you're gonna enjoy this. So without further ado, I want to introduce Matthew Thomas from Super Cool Radio. He's going to be my co-host. I'm going to be his co-host. We are going to be having a lot of fun here. We don't have a name just yet. We are kind of spitballing some names. There's one that I'm really attracted to. I'm going to see if I can make a YouTube channel based around that. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you already know the name, but as of the recording right now, we don't have a name. So yeah, welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me on this awesome podcast. It is great to talk wrestling with you. You're the only person who we can carry a conversation by only sending Macho Man Randy Savage gifts. So I think we're a perfect combination for the first episode of this podcast.
I don't think people truly understand how much that statement is, like how hilarious that statement is, because there are times in our texts where we're texting back to each other and it's literally just wrestling gifs back and forth, and we're having an entirely like full conversation with just Macho Man, Hulk Hogan gifs going back and forth.
So, well, based on that information, you guys are going to be in for a great podcast because obviously we are pretty, I would say, fairly knowledgeable about the world of wrestling, obviously through kind of different eras and different aspects of it. But I'm excited. This is the first podcast. I got some nice get up that I got right now. I got obviously repping my one of my favorite wrestling shirts, Rob Van Dam, Mr. PPV RVD. But it's awesome to be here. I know we got quite a bit to discuss, a lot happening in the wrestling industry right now.
Yeah, and with that said, since this is our first episode, why don't we start the show off by kind of letting the people know our background with wrestling. That way they don't think we're totally 100% schmucks. Why don't you let the people know kind of where you are with your wrestling background, what you watch, what you grew up with, and kind of where you are as a wrestling fan.
So yeah, obviously, so my wrestling knowledge. Well, obviously, I've watched a lot of wrestling, from the 80s, 90s, and up to modern day as well. But I first started in 2008 watching SmackDown with my grandfather because I was staying over at his house with my brother, and he's like, hey, you got to watch this because one of his favorite wrestlers was Rey Mysterio. So we started just watching SmackDown, and then when I got back home the next week, I was like, I'll watch some more wrestling. And that's when, like, I think SmackDown was, still like at its peak, 07, 08. It still had The Undertaker, Edge, Rey Mysterio, that whole thing. So that's when I really started watching wrestling. And obviously now with technology as it is, I've watched, Nitro and WCW, AEW, TNA. Like I've pretty much immersed myself in wrestling, so I try to be pretty knowledgeable about it. I was security for a local wrestling show for a couple shows. That was a lot of fun. So like I've had some different experiences related to pro wrestling.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, one of the things that really attracted me to you when it came to discussing wrestling was the fact that you are much younger than I am, but your knowledge kind of goes even older than I am as far as wrestling's concerned. So you understand where I'm coming from the Attitude Era, because that's basically my wrestling knowledge. My wrestling knowledge is the Attitude Era. I grew up watching WCW, and then I switched over to WWE kind of when Stone Cold kind of started his reign with his famous quote, after fighting Jake the Snake. That's kind of the match that got me into WWE at the time, WWF. And so I kind of watched it up until probably about 2002, 2003 is when I kind of stopped. Whenever John Cena kind of came in, when he was still wearing his little red tights, and the whole ruthless aggression era kind of started. That's kind of when I started to fall off a little bit. And now I am recently back watching wrestling again. I think wrestling, for me, growing up in the Attitude Era, it's kind of got that that spark again. I love the drama that is being created. I love that. I mean, one of the biggest things that I loved about the Attitude Era was that everybody had a storyline. It didn't matter if you were, one of the top guys or if you were on the lower card. Everyone had a story, and I feel like they're starting to bring that back with the new WWE wrestling with Paul Levesque at the helm. And so I'm really enjoying that. And remember, I said that because it is going to get a little ranty here later in the episode. So just remember, I do love wrestling. I do love WWE. It's still real to me, damn it. But yeah, I'm not big on the AEW stuff. And like I said, some of the topics we're going to cover today, I'm not super knowledgeable on the organization as a whole. I am that WWE fan. I like I said, I started with WCW and then I just became a WWF WWE fan. So I am that guy. So some of my opinions may rub people the wrong way, but hey, that is the whole point of this show: is that we're gonna have discussions, we're gonna rant, we're gonna have fun, and yeah, I hope you like it.
Well, and with that, yeah, well, two things before really diving into the topics. I do think like WWE, especially and wrestling as a whole, has gone through kind of a renaissance of sorts. That it's come more mainstream now. They actually have it. It seems more fun. It's more exciting. And yeah, as you said, everyone kind of has something. Like if you go back to the Attitude Era, like Val Venus always had a storyline, no matter what he was doing, even though he was not the top guy. You know who I'm talking
Oh
about.
yeah.
So, but it's kind of like that nowadays, where you don't have to be fighting for a belt to be involved in an interesting, storyline and stuff. And I think that's what's really cool about it now. And the way they're doing these partnerships, they're working with WWE's working with TNA now, and that kind of stuff. That it's so cool now that you see like people actually working together, and instead of like, oh, it's only WWE stuff. But now like you saw like Natalia was wrestling in an NWA show, so it's like
Mhm.
it's so much cool stuff going on, and I think that's what's making it more exciting.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, there's so much stuff that I want to cover in later episodes, like with the AAA and all that stuff being acquired, and so there's a lot of potential episodes where people are gonna love us or hate us and love our opinions or not. Um, just so you guys know, I don't mind. If I was ever gonna be a wrestler, I would always want to be a heel anyway. So take that as you will.
Yeah, but if you disagree with our opinions, please let us know in the comments what you guys think. Because like at least for me, I won't speak for you, but at least for me, I am open to the fact that I could be wrong about everything in life. So if you disagree with us, let us know. We really want to have a dialogue and a discourse on this.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm not gonna hate anybody, and I'm not gonna hate your opinion. I may disagree with you, but I love having that dialogue, definitely back and forth. But let's go ahead and get on our topics, as we do have about 4 topics today, and then we are going to end the show with some predictions, as a Saturday night main event will be coming up tomorrow. We're recording this on Friday. I'm going to try to edit it today and get it out Saturday for you guys. That's the plan anyway. So we're going to end the show with those predictions. But let's start the show with a topic that Matthew wanted to talk about, and I'm very interested in hearing your opinion, and I have my own opinion as well on this. But let's talk about the Sabu last match, and kind of touch on, since he just recently passed, kind of your take on that last match that he had.
So yeah, so obviously I didn't watch it obviously live, and honestly it took me a few weeks to watch his last match. But obviously with his sudden passing, and that was very unexpected. But to me, I was like always a fan of Sabu, just from like watching what he could do with like the triple jump moonsault and all his amazing kind of just moves that were very unique to him. So I've been a Sabu fan for a while. Not I don't want to come off the person that this person died, now I'm a fan. I'm like I've been a fan for a very long time. But his last match, so obviously there's a lot of controversy going along with it. I'm not sure if you've heard everything going on with it with Joey Janela. I think it was GCW, or yeah, I believe that was the promotion who hosted his last match. But so kind of leading up to it, so they weren't sure if Sabu was gonna like wrestle that night because he had like issues with his knees or something going on with that. And so like leading up to it, I think it was like 3 hours before the match or something like that, that he was not feeling well. So then the match did happen, but Joey revealed later that Sabu was given, I believe this is the correct pronunciation, Kraton or Croton. I'm not sure.
Kratom,
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a type of, I believe it's a type of opioid, I want to say. So before the match, and everyone like has been hysterical about that. I will get to that in a minute. But so then the match obviously did happen, and I thought it was going actually fairly decent for what it was
Hmm.
until it kind of broke down, and obviously Sabu, fell to the floor, which is kind of my main aspect I'll be talking about. But then it kind of broke down. It didn't seem to really go that well afterwards, but people can, if they watch the match, they kind of already have their opinion on it. But focusing on, so obviously taking Kratos before the match, everyone is very hysterical about that because they think he was under the influence or something like that. Only thing I will say, I'm not a drug expert by any means. I've never even smoked marijuana, so I'm not the person to really know about drugs and stuff. I can just see what I've read online, and so it is legal in Nevada. It's one of those states where it is legal to take. Now, like where I'm from, Indiana, where I live, it is not legal. It's considered a controlled substance.
Mm.
So that there is a little gray line of should people be wrestling under the influence of stuff that's it may be legal in one state, it may not be in another state. I think that's a whole debate that's going to take way too much time. So I'm not really going to focus on that. You know, because again, it's like, well, what if someone smokes weed and then wrestles a match? Is that putting somebody's life in danger? I don't know.
I mean, considering you're wearing an RVD shirt, that is a good good way to go. To. I'm pretty sure he wrestled high a lot.
Exactly. So I don't think like Sabu is obviously an adult. He took it,
Mm.
under his own free will to take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to focus on that aspect as much. You've heard many, obviously there's so many podcasts talking about it right now. So I'm not going to say he should or shouldn't have. He did
Mm-hmm.
what he wanted with that, and did it affect his outcome? I don't know. I don't think so because it was like 3 weeks later. But the one thing I did want to talk about with this that really shocked me, just because it looked really just violent and disgusting for, I think, kind of no reason, and that was Sabu's when he fell on the floor and hit his head, and you just see the pool of blood around his head. So now, like, okay, so my thing with that, obviously, so you have a 60 or 61-year-old man who is, got a huge head wound now and most likely concussed. Like I would, again, I'm not a doctor, but I would say it's a good chance he got a concussion from that, bleeding openly. I think they should have stopped the match at that point. I think that is, if anyone wants to place blame, unlike GCW, I think it's for that, for not stopping the match. And again, I know Sabu, he's hardcore and all that, but at the same point, like head injuries, as we've learned a lot, in the last 10, 15 years, is very dangerous to,
Mm-hmm.
if you do sustain a concussion. There's protocols now. There's certain things you should and shouldn't do when you have a concussion. And I don't think the match should have continued. Do I sound like a wimp for that? Maybe. But I think if you want to look at everyone's, well being, I think the match, at least it should have stopped, or there should have been a doctor there or some type of medical attention, because that was a lot of blood on the floor. Like that was not just a normal, I cut myself. That was like he's leaking blood kind of thing. So that's kind of where that was the part that really disturbed me per se,
Mm-hmm.
just watching it, and I couldn't imagine experiencing it like live as it happened. But just seeing that, I was like, because you see, like WWE, like you saw recently, Zoe Stark got injured on Raw, and
Mm-hmm.
they had a doctor right away. They, pulled her from the match, all that stuff. Like they took care of her. Obviously, do they did what they could. Obviously, she has a major leg injury and going to be out for a long time. But
Mm-hmm.
you saw how quick that response was. So the doctor was right there, and they pulled her from the match. I think, especially with wrestling, it's like live stuntman with no airbags kind of thing. You
Yeah, but
should
I
have
mean, you at the
proper.
same time you have people like I think age it takes. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
Or
I
you
think
good.
age is a huge factor there because you have somebody like JD McDonough who broke ribs and punctured a lung and was able to still finish the match. But he's a lot younger. You know what I mean? Like he's way younger, and he lives and breathes the business. So I have a lot of respect for JD for that. I became a fan of JD after that match. But you also we're talking about, like you said, a 61-year-old man who cracked his head on the floor. And even if there wasn't a lot of blood, the fact that he took a head injury and can still try to continue the match when you had somebody like Sandman who showed up, that is your out. He could have now taken over the spot, and then you let Sabu walk. Like they had the Zoe, because I feel like JD McDonough and Zoe Stark are two separate sides of that coin. You had somebody who, like Zoe Stark, who, and I have my own opinions about her. We can do a whole thing about her in another episode, but I don't really care for her. But the fact that she injured herself so severely that they physically stopped the match while the match was happening to pull her out is one extreme versus JD McDonough, who severely hurt himself and continued the match. There's two separate things, but they didn't have the outs that Sabu had. You had a guy come out who is also a legend who could have taken over the match. And again, I think they only had like 2,000 people, which for that particular promotion, I guess was a lot. But it's like it's 2,000 people, man, and the dude's 60. Like let him go. He's proven himself enough. But sorry, I'll let you
No,
finish.
you're good. No, I like the input because yes, with the Sandman angle, you could have called the match. Sandman could have came out. He could have beat some people up with his kendo stick, and I think everybody would have went home for the most part happy. So I think it was a natural out, a natural end to the match that it could have taken, and they decided not to. So again, I think a lot of people might hate me for that, and again, say I know I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pro wrestler, I get it. I'm just a guy on a podcast saying, calling it how I see it when it comes to that. But yes, that was supposed to be their biggest, Joey Janela spring break. That was their biggest like record, capacity for that show. So I can see there's some pride in like, oh, it's the biggest show, we got to keep going. But at the same time, I am all about people's health and well-being because again, especially with head injuries, it's different from obviously punctured lung, broken ribs, big, major internal injuries. And I'm not saying anything lightly, but with a head injury, that stuff you can't see, and the person might not be able to communicate because they might not even know, the severity of their own head injury.
Yeah, but I mean, we're in a age of where the curtain's being pulled back on wrestling. And a lot of fans now are getting to kind of see things that only like hardcore fans knew back in the day. And one of those, what I'm kind of leaning to with that is knowing that spot happened. Well, first of all, so my whole rant is he's 61. He shouldn't have been in the ring to begin with. On top of that, I don't agree with it being a barbed wire match. The fact that they didn't have actual ropes really bugs me. On top of that, after he hit his head, call it audible. The thing that really got to me, so the first issue that arose was the fact that he hit his head. The thing that bothered me after that was, okay, he fell on his head. He might be concussed. Okay, cool. You can still, if you want him to wrestle still and finish out the match, that's fine. But what really got under my skin was the chair back and forth. I don't know how recently you watched the match, but I don't know if you remember that part. But there's a section where they're literally hitting each other back and forth with chairs, and Sabu's taking chair hits. That could have been completely taken out. That spot didn't need to be done. To me, that's overkill. And then, like I said, when Sandman came in, like, let Sandman handle shit. There was no need for that chair spot. That was my biggest gripe watching that match after seeing him hit his head. That wrestler that he's wrestling, I don't know who he was. I don't know how long he's been in the business. I don't know his accolades or anything like that. But me being just a fan watching, had I been in his position, I would have been like, Sabu, we got to do something else, man. Like, I'm not going to hit you with a chair. It didn't seem right for him to go along with that. I don't care how hardcore and how big of a legend someone is. Like, you also kind of, you got to look out for each other's safety. And that's the thing. When I watched that match, I think that's the thing that irked me the most. I didn't know about the drug thing and all that stuff. And then again, like you said, he's an adult. The way I look at it is, wrestling's entertainment. I personally don't have an issue with wrestlers taking steroids. And if they're whatever they need to do to perform, I have no problem with that. If they know what they're getting themselves into, then by all means, that I don't want to get too deep into that, but that's kind of my take on the whole drug situation. I mean, these guys are taking painkillers anyway on the road when they're not performing, because they're performing so much. And that's kind of one of the reasons why I've seen a lot of newer wrestlers now talking about that's kind of what they like about Paul Levesque being in charge, is that they get days off. they're, they're not having to wrestle 365 days a year now. They get some time off, and they get time to recover. So that is a positive direction that I definitely am happy about. But yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. And that's kind of the conclusion of my stance on that topic. And with the drug thing, again, that's such a gray area that there's so many different aspects to that again, it would be such a long conversation if we were to like hash out like every detail of that. And my thing is, did that really affect anything? No. And like, I don't want to, because if you say, oh, you shouldn't have done that, then like, what's the, I'm sure, as I said, plenty of wrestlers who did like, smoked weed before a match, or, heroin, coke, whatever, the
him
harder
falling on his head,
substances.
him falling on his head and continuing to wrestle was way more dangerous than whatever fucking substance he puts
Exactly.
in his body.
That's what I'm trying to get at. And again, people are, like, at least a lot of the podcasts, that's why I don't really care to talk about it too much, because everyone's like, oh, he took this substance before a match. Again, is what it is with that. I think the match itself was the bigger issue with it. And again, I want to make a big disclaimer here. I'm not saying the match led to his death in any way, but I think for future matches, especially with legends like that, there should be some precautions taken by the promoter, especially if there is a major, possible head injury like that, to take care of the people.
Yeah, definitely. Because again, Sabu was such a savage that he's not going to complain. So there needs to be, people that are in charge to kind of stop worrying about what wrestlers are putting in their body and worry about like what they're doing in the ring, like that can physically hurt them, especially at that age. Like he's one of those wrestlers that's just not going to quit. He's going to do what he's going to do. There's other wrestlers out there that are a lot smarter that are like, you know what, my days are done. I'm done. Like Dave Batista is one that comes to mind. He walked and he's good with it. Stone Cold's another one. Some guys know when to quit, some don't. So it's kind of disheartening knowing that there are people out there that are willing to let the ones that don't know when to stop continue to do stuff that are it's going to potentially hurt them long term.
Oh no, for sure. I think that's kind of a good way to sum it up. I don't know if you've seen the movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, but that's kind
That's
of
what I
comes
was
to
thinking
mind.
of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely what comes to mind when the stuff like when people. I don't know. It's partially yes, they don't know when to stop, but it's also they've been doing it for most of their adult life, and that's the only thing they know how to do. And it's like the thing that they can get paid with, that they don't either haven't enhanced other skills that allows them to do other non-physical things to get paid. It's kind of the main source of income. So maybe they shouldn't be doing it, but they still have to pay their bills.
And so yeah, it's a sad thing that happened. Like I said, I didn't know a lot about Sabu. I just knew he was one of those extreme legends. So I did respect his art and what he did, and I think it was just managed poorly. And it's unfortunate, man.
Oh no, for sure, for sure.
So now I want to get into our second topic here, and that's going to be kind of I want to apologize. Both of my topics are going to be a little ranty, but I think most, if not all of you, will agree with me, and I know Matthew Thomas will probably agree with a lot of what I have to say. And this next topic we want to cover is, I just put in my notes, WWE Greed. Now, before we get into this, I do want to say I am a wrestling fan. I am a WWE fan. I love what Paul Levesque is doing. I enjoy the stories that are being told. I love that they are long stories. They take time to develop. There's twists, there's turns, there's things that keep me coming and watching Raw. Sadly, I don't watch much of SmackDown just because I don't really have a way ever since Hulu lost their contract with them. I had the USA app on my TV. I tried watching a SmackDown episode. It let me watch like the first 20 minutes, and then I had to pay for USA. And I already pay for enough apps, damn it. I'm not paying for any more. So the fact that Raw is on Netflix, I'm able to watch Raw. I have Peacock, so I'm able to watch the pay-per-views. So until they make a way to where I can watch SmackDown easier, I'm not really going to watch SmackDown. So I do watch the highlights, though. I will say that on YouTube, they post highlights on Friday night. And so that's how I'm able to keep up with SmackDown. But I do love what WWE is doing on the wrestling side, on the entertainment side of things. The thing that I don't like is how greedy they are getting with the financial side of WWE. I am a fan of WWE. I have never been to a live event, and I've always wanted to go to a live event. Now that I have a family, my family watches wrestling with me. Going to a live event seems nearly impossible now. With what they charge for the seats, I can't even afford to take my family, and when I say family, I mean my wife, my 2 kids, and my mom and myself to an event, even in the nosebleeds. It's just not worth it. I wouldn't be able to afford it. I had to take out a small loan in order to do that. That's my major gripe about it. And it's interesting because I don't even think most of the wrestlers knew. I don't know if you ever saw that clip of Randy Orton when he finds out a fan paid like 40 grand to be there for I think they had like front row seats and they had got the meet and greet or whatever, and Randy Orton's like, "You paid how much?" If you haven't seen that clip, definitely go check out that clip. He's even blown away. He doesn't, you know. But with that being said, what really gets under my skin is knowing that they charge this much for seats nowadays. And on top of that, you've now sold the ring. It started with fucking Prime and Logan Paul's bullshit, and now you literally have sponsors. You can buy the middle of the mat, you could buy the left and right of the mat, you could buy the corners of the fucking mat. It's like it's a very sellout move, and I get it. You need to make money, but come on, man. And then on top of that, the biggest thing that gets under my fucking skin is when I'm trying to watch a match, and you cut to a commercial. And it's not just one match that you do it to. You do it to every single freaking match that we're watching that night. It takes me out of what's going on, especially when the wrestlers are building momentum and you have this back and forth momentum shift where, you know, the heel's winning and then all of a sudden the babyface is coming back. Oh, and then the heel takes it back. And then we go to commercial and you come back like, where's the momentum? It's completely gone. I don't know if this is a Paul Levesque move. I don't know if this is a WWE move in general, or if this is a Netflix deal that this was part of the Netflix. I don't know. Either way, as a fan, it annoys the fucking shit out of me.
All right, so yeah, I a lot to unpack with that. I am on a similar stance to that. I will say, so I attended the Royal Rumble in Indianapolis because it was about a 2-hour drive from where I live. So with that, I was in the 200 section of the building. So I wasn't like super close. I wasn't super far. But even with
so
that,
you're basically you would still be under the like box seats, right? Where like the banners are, the LED banners. So yeah, those are still relatively good seats.
Yeah, overall, relatively good seats. Like I was positioned, so if you see like if you're watching the Royal Rumble, the WrestleMania sign, I was below, like a little bit below that in the corner. So with that,
So
with
if you don't mind,
taxes,
I was gonna say, if you don't mind me asking, how much were those tickets?
that's where I was going with. So those were about $200 for those. So
and that's for one ticket.
So that's for one ticket. Now, obviously, I went with a group of 5, and someone put it on their credit card, and we pay them all back. So I don't want to know how much that, obviously it was about $1,000 for that. So which, like, obviously individually, if I were to just go myself, $200, like, not bad. But if you're paying for your entire family, like in your case, $1,000 just to get into the building, that's not including like beer at Lucas Oil was $20. So if you wanted to get a beer, it was $20.
And was it like a pint, or was it at least a decent sized cup? Oh my god!
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure the merch is high as shit too.
Yeah, like the WWE like championship belts, the replica ones. Those were, I think, the cheapest I saw was $300.
Well, let's go just basic, okay? Because like if I was gonna go to a show like I do with like most like metal shows, I want to buy a shirt. You're probably looking at what? Maybe I'm gonna guess here. So normally at shows, I'm paying $25-$30 for a band shirt. But since this is WWE, I'm gonna go probably 45 to 60.
Yeah, but I don't even remember exactly, but I believe the cheapest I saw was like 40, $45.
Fuck. Yeah, that's ridiculous, man.
So yeah. So if let's say you buy a beer, you buy a shirt, you're already at $100 there already. So then again, traveling, because most of the time, at least for me, that was a 2 hour drive. Now, luckily, I did not pay for gas, or we took someone else's vehicle, so I did
Well,
not.
even then, you're gonna like if it was here locally here, I would probably take an Uber because I'm not gonna want to drive in that shit. And then of course I got kids, so they're gonna want snacks. It's fuck. Yeah.
Now, I will say, like, some of that stuff is set. Like, obviously, the beer and pretzels are set, I assume, by the stadium. W does
Yeah.
not have a hand in that.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
now, will they jack it up, or is that their normal price? I don't know. I don't attend enough, stadium football games, to.
Yeah, but the point there is that like we already know it's already been established that that stuff is expensive. It always has been. The issue is not only are you having to pay on that stuff, which again you don't have to, but I mean, come on, you're gonna want to drink. You're gonna get a little parched yelling, especially with the way WWE crowds are now. There's a lot of "you suck," "this is awesome," John Cena sucks, John Cena rules. You're gonna have a lot of that going on. You're gonna want to participate. You're gonna want to drink something. The fact that the wrestling tickets have gotten so outrageous, it makes it to where you don't have room to kind of do anything else but buy a ticket.
No, I think so. And kind of going along with that too is like it's kind of pushing out some of middle class can't really afford it anymore. It's all the people if like you spend like I can't drop $40,000 on anything, regardless of a ticket. Like I wish I had $40,000. That would make a lot of things easier,
Hmm.
but I don't. So like I don't know like who's affording this kind of thing because sure it's certainly not you or me.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean that you ultimately you're gonna get a lot of influencers. You're gonna get a lot of celebrities. It's just gonna become like you said. It becomes an exclusive event for casuals. You're not gonna get your hardcore wrestling fans showing up. You're gonna get casuals. You're gonna get people who have money to toss around that are like, hey, WWE's coming to town. You want to go? Like, okay, cool, yeah. I like Stone Cold. Okay, cool. He's probably not going to be there, but oh, okay. Well, it's basically like a Pokemon fan that only knows who Pikachu is. You know what I mean? Or like is a Charizard fan. Um, yeah, it does suck because I, I grew up poor, so I couldn't afford to go to a WWE event back in the day when it was a little more reasonable, and now it's so out of reach. Now as a father, I couldn't see myself going to an event by myself. The whole point of going to a live event is to share that with my family, to show them why I love wrestling, what's so exciting about it. My wife got into it when I was trying to get back into it. And then my mom was always kind of a fan, so we started inviting her back over because again, it was a nostalgia thing for me and my mom. Me and my mom used to watch wrestling together when I was a kid, so getting her back into it, and now she's starting to kind of find her groove and her favorite wrestlers and stuff. Like she likes AJ Styles, she likes Randy Orton. She wants to like Drew McIntyre. Because and then we've had that conversation before with me and my mom where I was like, I want to like Drew McIntyre too. I think he has that it factor. That there's something about Drew, that draws me to him. And my mom, I know why my mom likes him because he's big and buff, and she likes hairy chests and all that stuff. So, but we want to go as a family and enjoy wrestling as a family, and it's nearly impossible with, like you said, going and getting the merch, having the snacks, the transportation, and then on top of all of that, still trying to buy tickets. It's so out of reach.
Yeah, and it is, and like kind of going along with that. I mean, I think it's an entertainment industry thing in general as well. You see the price of like Metallica tickets or ACDC, tickets and stuff like that. Because I was looking, my brother wanted to go see ACDC in Chicago at Soldier Field, and it was like even not even like super close. Like you were up in the nosebleeds. I think it was like 350 or something. And I was like, I'm not paying that. Like I like ACDC, but I'm not paying that. If you want to pay for it, go for it.
Well,
I
see
am.
the thing, I think the reason why I'm annoyed of it though is because again, we're talking about how pricey these tickets are. If the tickets were that pricey and if they people are obviously buying them, so yes, they're going to continue to charge that. But then at the same time, you can't complain, and this ties into later on in the show. But you can't sit there and complain that people aren't showing up, and so you have to bring certain people in for ticket sales. So remember, when you're watching this video, remember what I just said, because that's going to come back later. But you shouldn't be complaining. And on top of that, if you're going to charge that much for tickets to go see a live event, then and you're going to make the casual like fan pay all that money, and then you're going to have the hardcore fans have to stay home to watch, don't make it hard for us at home by throwing commercials in. Because now you're making money off of that too. You're making money off of advertisement, both with ads on the during the show, and then ads on your ring mat. You know, it's like it just seems like a huge cash grab, and they're trying to take advantage of the fact that now they're hitting that popular ceiling again. And to me, it just feels like a big fuck you to hardcore fans. And it's like, yes, we want all the casuals, because the casuals, they have money too. We want all of their money. Fuck the hardcore fans.
Yeah, and that kind of is that sentiment. Now, I will say, for me, I don't mind as much the ring having advertisement on it. You know, it's like UFC, it's like AAA, I think, does that too, and
Mm-hmm.
other MMA stuff. Like, that doesn't bother me as much. Now, I think some of them, now I will say, for me personally, if I see the general on a ring mat, does that make me want to get their insurance? No. Like,
But
that is
again,
not the.
my issue is having that and then still having crazy ticket prices,
No,
because
I
it's
agree.
like, dude, have one or the other. Because if you're gonna make these companies pay to be on your mat, charge them whatever the fuck you want. They're companies. I don't give a shit about that. But then help out the little man that wants to go see the show.
Now, they want it on both ends.
Yeah, they want as the saying goes, they want their cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And my thing, I especially with the commercials, like you see, like I only watch PLEs. I don't have Netflix, so I only watch the pay-per-views. And my thing with that, I want to see the hype packages for it. And for on Peacock, they put commercials in, but they play the hype crowd, the hype package to the crowd, and then they
You
put a
can get
commercial
it.
in so you don't even see it.
So you can get it. But that right there is a Peacock thing. So I'm with you on that. I used to have the most basic Peacock package, and it would show
Oh,
commercials. And I'm like, I want to see I miss the hype reels.
yeah.
If you pay for the premium,
Mm.
I guess it's the premium. It's the one that's above just the
Oh,
basic
plus
premium.
plus.
Yeah, if you pay for that, then you get it. Because this last pay-per-view, I switched it because I thought I could tie that with USA, with the Peacock stuff. Because on USA, it promoted Peacock to watch SmackDown. So I went and paid for the plus. Still can't fucking watch SmackDown. But now that I'm watching the pay-per-views, I get to see those now. The commercials have gone
Okay.
away. So I think that's a Peacock thing.
Well,
But
still
again,
though.
yeah, but it's still WWE must have their hand in there somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure
Uh,
they're getting paid.
yeah, so it's like, again, it's if you're gonna take money, pick one. If you're gonna take money from corporations, by all means, but then give us the fans a little bit of a break. If you
That's
and
not how it
again,
works.
yeah, because if the live events were a lot cheaper, you wouldn't hear me complain about the commercials being played during matches. It's like it's almost kind of like, well, then go watch a live show, fuck boy, like pay a little bit of money and go watch it. But it's like
Yeah, you
if somebody
can't.
tells me that now, it's like I'm not paying that. Even if I had $40,000 to throw down, I'm not doing it. You know, it's like
Yeah, and I will say like I've been to SmackDown, I've been to a house show, and I've been to the Royal Rumble. Now, granted, the SmackDown I went to was like 2014. Chris Jericho was still wrestling for him, so Roman Reigns and the Shield was still a thing. And so with that, I forgot ticket prices. I think it was like 60, $70, and we were
much
kind of
reasonable.
yeah. I mean, but granted, this is over 10 years ago.
Yeah,
So that was, and we were on the floor like the last row, so
damn,
not terrible.
but still,
Yeah,
floor for $60. That's
yeah,
much
and that
more
was
reasonable.
Dayton, Ohio. That was where we went. So that was like a decent drive from Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I went to Fort Wayne for a house show, and that was a little bit. That's where I got this shirt, by the way. Because we saw RVD versus Alberto Del Rio for the World Championship, but he lost. But um, I forgot tickets are a little bit more pricey. I think they were close to $100, give or take, maybe 120. I don't remember. But that was the same kind of. I think that was about the same time frame, 2014, 2015. Because I think Rob left in 2015. I think, not exactly sure, but somewhere around there. So, but again, I'm decently okay with that. Like concert wise, for me, like Alice Cooper's my favorite. So like I will not pay more than to see another band. If like Alice Cooper, I can pay like 100, 125 to see him. I will not pay any more because if Alice Cooper's my favorite, everyone else, you gotta be less than that.
That's a good way
That's
to
how I
look at
roll.
it, man. That's a good way to look at it. But again, this is why I'm also off topic, but I'm a fan of underground bands because 20, 40 bucks, cool. I can
Or
go.
less. Sometimes like $20.
Yep, I have enough money to buy a shirt and still promote the band and make sure that they can eat before they go to the next city. You know.
Yeah. I
So
saw I went I don't know if you're I don't know how familiar you are with Bad Nerves. They're from the UK. They toured US, every year or so, and I try to see them because I'm a huge fan of their music. And so I saw them in Indianapolis, and I think it was $35 for a ticket. Not
oh, nice.
terrible.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
sorry for the rant, guys. I know this is a wrestling podcast, but we are music guys. So at the end, we are going to plug. We do have some shows outside of this that deal with music, so we will plug those at the end of the show. So I do want to apologize for for the tangent. You will hear us touch on music occasionally. Music is a big thing in wrestling too. So just let it be known we are music fans too. So,
But it's kind of just like it kind of augments what we're saying though. Like it's
yeah, definitely.
not just a wrestling thing that they're insane prices. It's also kind of an industry thing in itself. So that's where I'm tying in. But
Yeah, definitely.
do,
And I'll say right off the bat, fuck Ticketmaster. I'll leave it at that with that.
Yeah.
So let's go into our third topic. Unless do you have any closing things that you want to say
I think
on
we're good.
the
I mean, this next topic also talks about money, so I think it works pretty well.
Okay, awesome. So our transition is going to work just fine here, guys. So our third one is something that you wanted to talk about, something that I am not knowledgeable on at all. So I won't be interrupting as much on this. I'm going to be listening and learning from you on this one. But this is something that you brought up to me that was interesting. I didn't even know wrestlers did shit like this. But yeah, let's talk about the Sasha Banks text service. That's what I wrote down in my notes. But do you care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, so Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné in AEW. I believe she's a current champ or former champ with them. Doing honestly some really great work. I think out of the wrestling division, women's wrestling division, AEW, I think she's definitely one of the better ones. I just wish they had more compelling storylines for her. They're kind of just throwing her in storylines that's not making too much sense, but that's a different topic. So since she's with AEW, they allow their wrestlers to do outside things. They can, wrestle in outside companies. They can do like Patreon, OnlyFans, and things like that. Where in WWE you can't really do that. It's barred. So they can have other incomes as well. Now, something that she launched that I saw, some other creators and podcasts talking about is a text service, and how she promotes, at least on her website, is that you can directly text with her. It's like, like you can ask her questions and like life updates and things like that. And she's supposed to like respond to you directly. Now, before I talk about pricing, I want to talk about the company who is that she's using their service, which is Direct Text Access LLC, which sounds like a sketchy name. I'm just saying. But anyway,
it sounds very scammy.
Yeah, like that's kind of where I was not trying to say that outright. I didn't want to influence anyone right away.
It's okay. I'll do it for you. I'll take the bullet, bro.
Well, I wanted to see. I was not trying to take your opinion on it.
Oh, okay.
So, you kind of already got where I was going with this. So one of their things that they say, and I will see what you think about this. So it's called time-saving features. I went to their website. I do research. I'm a journalist. So this is what they have to say about their time-saving features, and I want to see what you think about the way they word this.
Okay.
So we got 2 paragraphs here. We know managing fan communication can be time-consuming, which is why we've added some unique features to make it easier. Canned messages. You can pre-compose responses and send them with a single click. Perfect for staying on top of fan messages when you're dealing with a high volume. And now broadcast messaging. Personalize and send a single message to many fans at once, but to them, it will appear as an individual message. Whether you want to reach a few or all of your fans, you can create a template and insert their names automatically for that personal touch. Now, what does that sound like to you?
So these are the features that she has as
Yes,
as
that's
as as the
as a host and creator, yes.
okay. So yeah. So do they market it to the fans as you basically have a personal lifeline to this person?
Yes. So let me
Okay.
I will pull up on what it says on her website about this.
Okay.
So that was the Direct Text Access LLC.
Okay.
So that was what they were saying about their, their templates and their canned messages and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So then on her website, if you go to that, and I'll send you some screenshots if you want to include it in this podcast.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It says, "Let's be text buddies," and it shows like having a conversation with somebody like, "Oh, he's Snoop Dogg's real cousin. When do you want to talk? When did you talk to them last?" And it says, "He is. I saw him in New York. We had dinner." It shows like a different like text message.
Mm-hmm.
So my super fans have always been my super friends. Now, like friends, we can text each other directly and privately. So, it says exclusive, one-on-one, personal, private, all of that stuff. But if you look at the company who's doing this,
Mm-hmm.
with the canned messages and, the templates and that thing, are you actually going to text her and be friends with her? I would say it's unlikely.
So I think on the surface, I would say scam. But the more I kind of think about it, I kind of feel like it's almost up to, and I'm gonna, I guess we'll go with we'll use the term celebrity. I think it boils down to the celebrity as an individual on how active they want to be. Because I feel like this could be abused as a straight up cash grab. Because this is a paid service, right? As a fan, you
Oh
have
yeah,
to pay.
so I was going to get to that pricing in just a minute. So it's $99.99, so basically $100 a month.
Is that? Oh fuck. Okay, I was gonna say a one-time price or monthly. Okay, so
Oh,
that's
that's
a lot
monthly.
of money. So I'm guessing that the company's going to be taking a percentage and then give the celebrity their cut. So I think ultimately it kind of comes down to I feel like a service like this could work if the celebrity is willing to put in the work that it takes to actually text these people. The fact that the company is offering these celebrities these templates, we'll call them templates of communication. I think there is a deceptive marketing strategy there that I don't think the consumer is 100% privy to. Which again, if it's abused, uh, yes, I think it is predatory. But again, people are dumb, and they're dumb with their money. So I think if people are doing this, I mean, I can't really hate on the company too much. Like I said, it's kind of up to the celebrity, I feel, of how interactive they want to be. But you also got to look at it this way. As a fan, if you're texting a celebrity, do you really think they have time to have full-blown conversations with you? I mean, you gotta take into consideration that depending on how famous this person is, chances are you're not talking to that person. Do you think every celebrity runs their own social media? I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I think it's yes, it's predatory. Yes, it's deceptive. Yes, I think taking advantage of people is wrong, but I think it's going to take advantage of people who are just too dumb to realize. I think that if the price was a little bit cheaper, I would say it wouldn't be that bad. Like if it was like $12 a month, okay, cool, whatever. I'm because I mean before you know it, it's probably going to end up just being an AI bot anyway. If people want to pretend and I mean, whatever. But $100 does seem steep. And I personally wouldn't pay for that. But again, we're talking about somebody like me and you. We don't have huge fan bases. If people wanted to, if we were part of that service, more than likely I would be responding to every single person. Um, but I mean, you have to take into consideration how famous is the celebrity, and are you willing to pay $100 to talk to a bot? I mean, honestly, there's apps in the App Store right now that you can pay $20 a month and you can talk to an AI girlfriend, and people pay for that. Those things have over 100 million downloads. So, like I said, people are just dumb.
Yeah, and again, I'm not saying what it is or wasn't or what it isn't, but to me, you can do what you want with your money. I'm not saying anyone should or shouldn't sign up for the service. That is completely up to them and what they want to spend. But I definitely think, you know, obviously, if you look at it and go, like, again, I wouldn't be spending $100 on that
Mm-hmm.
myself. But I do like, is Mercedes actually going to be responding to everyone? Personally, I don't think so. There's probably going to be a team either from the tech service or from her own team who are either responding, or again, it's an AI thing where there's like pre-loaded messages that you receive. Like we've seen obviously like with other creators or like especially like OnlyFans, like the people find out that they're not actually talking to the girl, that it's
Mm-hmm.
actually just someone else. Which again, if you're doing those kind of things, again, I'm not hating on anyone, but again, I'm not surprised if things like this, does come out and stuff like this happens.
I mean, I think I would feel more comfortable if, again, the price was a little bit cheaper, and if they also just had a disclaimer, that the it's at the celebrity's discretion to either actually respond to you or pick a template of a pre-message that's already created. I think if they
Yeah, I
made
think it should
that,
be explained better.
yeah, if that is given to the fans, then that way they know what they're getting into and what they're spending their money on. But if the fans outlook on this is sold one way, and then the celebrity is offered, well, here's what you can actually do, and that's not known to the fan, then yeah, that's where that predatory, unethical kind of business comes in, where I don't agree with that at all.
Yeah, and again, like she just launched this, so I'm not, there's been no feedback on people who actually did sign up for this service. Now,
And you
again,
can't
like,
really you can't hate on her though. Like I
no,
really feel like it's one of those things where it's like it's not even like her or any celebrity that signs up for this. It's kind of, I think it's down to the company. I mean, she's just trying to make money at the end of the day, and
yeah.
survive.
So I'm not hating. I want to make this clear. Like, I'm not hating on her herself for this,
Mm,
but I think it's being marketed in a way that can be very misleading if someone doesn't do some research or look into it further. Like with what I did,
yeah, definitely.
that you might not actually be talking to her.
Oh well, and that's why I'm glad you brought it up, so that people watching this can know about that service if they've never heard about it and they stumble upon it later on. I think it's a great way, and it would be great if Sasha came out and also would say, "Hey, look, listen, this is something that I'm doing. You can talk to me, and just know that sometimes I'm busy. I may not be able to get back to all of y'all right away. There may be some, template messages that go out, but I will still respond when I can." I think the transparency needs to be there.
And I think if it was, I think I would be less inclined to believe that it's a scam or predatory if it was something like what you just said. If that was on our website with it, then I think it would go over much well. Plus, I would say $100. Now I don't have like $100 to spend on a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, granted, I just spent $100 to get some new Super Core Radio merch this week, but that
Nice.
is like a business necessity, not just like I'm going to give this person
You're
$100.
you're
Like,
investing in yourself at that point, though. So that's
exactly.
different.
Yeah. So like I don't have money to be spent. Like again, if it was like $10, $5, like to me, if I were to do something like this, now I'm not saying I'm not on her celebrity level. I am far from it. But even if it was just like $5, like, and you get like a couple texts, a month from me, like, hey, how's it going? Kind of thing.
But
I
even
would,
then, she could. There's another way she could win about this. Patreon exists.
yes.
You know what I mean? You don't have to go with a predatory company like this. You could literally do this yourself and get all the money. Granted, you'll
I
have to
think they
pay
still take a
Patreon
cut,
some.
but
Yeah, but it's probably not as much. And you
Yeah, I'm
could
not
do
sure.
you could again be very transparent about it and be like, hey, if you want to be, and then you can control that by, if you want people to have your number, you could charge even more than $100. And you know, that's how you could also place control on how many people you get, so you're able to fulfill that commitment. You know what I mean? Because people are actually paying you directly to have your number. And then again, you could have a secondary phone that's not a personal phone. It's meant for that. I mean, there's other options. So like companies like this don't need to exist. There's already ways to do these things as a celebrity. If you just think out of the box, outside the box, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you can even do Patreon has messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can personally message people on Patreon too. So like, there doesn't even have to be a text service. Or you can just use like Patreon if there was something, if there was a tier like that or something like that. So again, I'm not super familiar with Patreon.
Well,
Like
even
with
then,
all
you could do group chats. Casket Robbery
yeah,
is one of those bands that do that, where their patrons, they have a tier where people pay monthly, and they get together with them like once a month, and they watch a horror movie together, and they have a chat, and they
yeah,
communicate with chat and stuff. Like there's other options out there. This company seems very predatory, and they're not they're not transparent enough for my liking. I
I
think
agree.
there's better options out there. And Sasha Banks, I doubt you're watching this, but if you happen to watch this, there's other avenues, man. Get away from that and the predatory thing, and associate yourself with something that's a little more transparent.
I agree. I agree. I think that's a good way to close out this topic for it.
Well,
Since we're
thank you for
talking,
bringing that, man, because that
yeah,
that is very it's interesting to see what companies come up with, and how they try. We're in a weird um we're in a weird transition when it comes to technology and the way people are trying to make money off of social media, the way people are trying to interact with fans. We're in this weird, this is all new to us. This is new stuff, and everybody's trying to get a piece, and there's plenty of room for everybody. The problem is that you have companies that come in that all they see is that bottom dollar. How can we maximize our profits? And because there's not a lot of overhead in this type of business, the predatory companies really kind of slither their way through the tall grass. And so, we got to all kind of keep our heads above that grass, get that mower, and mow that grass so we can see those snakes. And again, I'm always talking highly of you, Matt, but that's one of the reasons why I love working with you and everything that we've done. Like I said, we'll touch on our other stuff that we do at the end of the episode, but that's one of the reasons why I love being a business partner with you, and making content and doing all this stuff that we've done in the past, and what we're going to be doing in the future, because you are very transparent. You're very genuine. You don't have that predatory vibe at all. You want to just cover things that you enjoy. You want to talk about things that you like, and if you can make a little money off of it, great. But at the end of the day, these are hobbies, and you like doing what you do. You enjoy doing it, and money is a goal, of course. I think everybody would be lying if they said it wasn't. But at the end of the day, you're doing it because you enjoy it. And I think that we've had this conversation in person before. That when you call it quits is when it's not fun anymore. So yeah, I think that's why we both agree on this topic. I'm glad that you brought it, to the attention of the podcast. I think it's an interesting thing, and I'm sure there's going to be more companies like that, especially in the WWE and AEW and TNA realm, the wrestling realm. There's always going to be somebody trying to make some money off of it. So we'll definitely keep our ear to the floor, and if any more of these type of things come up, we'll definitely bring it up on the show, and discuss it, and kind of let people know, and bring some awareness to it. So thanks for bringing that, man.
of course, and before right before transition to the next one, just kind of what you talk about with me. Like again, I really appreciate kind words, but also like I see the same kind of qualities that I bring to my content in your content and your approach as well. That you are very transparent, you're open and honest, and that's why I seek out advice from you on certain things. Because like I know that you have a good perspective on things, and you're going to be honest about it, even if it's not a great situation, or even if it is, like, you're going to be honest about it. And that's what I really appreciate with the people who I consider friends, is that they're going to be honest with me, even if it's not in my favor. Like, like, I know if I did something bad, you'd be like, dude, you fucked up on this. But now, does that happen? Not right now, but
But it comes from
I know
a
you'd
loving point for sure. Like, it would, if I told you fucked up somewhere, it would be from a loving side. It wouldn't be like trying to be a dick about it.
no, but you'd be honest about it. You wouldn't, oh no, you're fine, man. No, like, you'd be like, yeah, you messed up on this. But now, luckily, nothing has come to that point with anything we've done, which is great. It shows just our our character with things. But it also, like, I appreciate that honesty and stuff, and that's why I always look for stuff like, well, not always, but like, if I do see stuff that catches my eye, it's because people are being unethical or dishonest, or even just poorly marketed, at the bare minimum for this.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what's going on with that whole tech service. I think it's just being poorly marketed, and is it intentional the way that they word things? Possibly. But it's definitely one of those things where I think celebrities need to take the time to actually look at stuff that they get involved in, and not just jump on the next coolest thing that they think is going to generate money. And oh wow, this is cool, because I guarantee the way they sold it to her, I can't speak for her, but I have a feeling the way they worded it on the website is that they probably told her, hey, look, this is a good way to keep in touch with your fans, and that's about where they left it. And then she finds out about the tools later, and it's just, yeah, I don't blame any celebrity for wanting to do something like this, but definitely it's one of those things where there are other options, and they should definitely kind of make some time to find those other options, especially if they want to communicate with their fan base. But yeah, man, enough of the gushy stuff, guys. I know we're here to talk wrestling. So we're going to move on to something that I've ranted about this before. Like I said, we had a other podcast called Basic Ass Dudes that sadly got removed from YouTube, but I'm going to play a clip of me ranting about Dwayne right here. I think Dwayne Johnson is an egomaniac. I think he's a narcissist, and he likes money. Damn! And so that clip, I did that when I first started getting into wrestling, and we were talking about WrestleMania, and we were talking about the Roman Reigns thing and the Cody Rhodes thing. And now we're here in 2025, and we're still talking about Dwayne Johnson, because he's still putting his fucking nose in places he shouldn't be. And he's inserting himself into situations that just get under my fucking skin. So now we're going to rant a little bit about Dwayne. And I know you guys probably, if you're wrestling fans, you've seen tons and tons of people talk about Dwayne Johnson already and have their opinions about Dwayne Johnson. And I'm just another schmuck that's going to be yelling about Dwayne Johnson. But it really gets under my skin. And one of the things that got under my skin was, and this is no attack on this guy as an individual, but Dominic Mysterio did a podcast here recently on, I think his name is Bradley something. I always just call him Mr. 260 pound man. But he has a podcast, I believe it's called Raw, and he interviews UFC fighters, and now he's starting to interview WWE. And again, this is a guy who, when I talk about casual, this is one of those influencers, YouTubers, like that YouTube celebrity that is a casual wrestling fan. He's getting into wrestling now, and he wants to act like he's been a fan and this and that and whatever. He had Dominic on and he interviewed Dominic, and the interview was pretty cool. I mean, the more interviews I see about Dominic Mysterio, the more I start to love that guy. He's one of the best heels, I think, in the history of wrestling. The way he gets booed is just phenomenal. So I just want to start by saying that. I love Dominic Mysterio as a heel. Let's put it that way. I love to hate him. But as he does interviews, I kind of hate it because I'm starting to like him as an individual. I think he's fucking cool as shit. He seems like a really down-to-earth guy, and the fact that he grew up in the business, he's a man that understands the business. I mean, his dad's Rey Mysterio, and he gets it. With that being said, he is a company man as well. Which again, not a knock on him. I'm like that in my personal life with my full-time job. I live and breathe the brand of the job that I work for because I like the company that I work for. So I live that brand outside of the company as well. And the same way with the stuff that I'm trying to build, the stuff that Matt's trying to build. We understand as content creators, you live and breathe the brand. So I'm not knocking him on that. But I will say the poor sorry excuse that he had really got under my skin. So in this interview, and I know this is long-winded, but in this interview, he was basically asked about Dwayne and the whole WrestleMania debacle. And his response basically was, "Hey man, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson is an actor. He's a busy man. Actually, he used the term he's a busy man. He's an actor, he's a wrestler, he's, a fucking entrepreneur because he's got all these companies that he's got, like a tequila brand, he's got energy drinks, he's got all this shit. Cool. I'm not knocking Dwayne Johnson for being an entrepreneur. I'm not knocking Dwayne Johnson for being a businessman. I'm not knocking Dwayne Johnson for wanting to do other things outside of wrestling. But I don't like that excuse of, well, he's busy. He might have been shooting a movie. He couldn't show up to WrestleMania because he had this, he had that, he had that. Cool. Dwayne, do your thing, man. Make your fucking money. Be the celebrity that you are. That's fine. But what I don't like is don't insert yourself into fucking stories if you're not going to fully commit and play that storyline out. That's what gets under my skin. That's what makes me hate you as a wrestler, as somebody who is also at the helm and can control what the fuck goes on in this universe, to put yourself in this universe and then not go through with it. And then your dumbass excuse yourself is it was planned to be that way. And, oh, well, I don't want to outshine the other people. Fuck you, Mr. Outshine. We have new superstars. We have people that have gone and put in the work to be who they are, and then you shit on them. That's not cool, man. Put yourself in Cody's shoes. Imagine if someone did that to you when you were trying to come up. And again, I don't shit on The Rock. I like The Rock. I was a fan of The Rock. I still am a fan of The Rock. I don't like Dwayne Johnson. And the reason why I don't like Dwayne Johnson is because of the egotistical narcissism that is Dwayne Johnson. And again, being egotistical, being narcissistic, it works in your favor at times. Again, he's very famous. He's very, very rich. He's a very successful man. He has all these projects that he's doing. He has a lot of spinning plates. And as somebody, as a content creator myself, who has a lot of spinning plates, I get it. I understand it. But I also try not to put myself into something if I can't fully commit to it. And that's one of the reasons why, as me as a content creator, I feel bad because there's things that I'm still sitting on that I haven't edited that I did a year ago. And again, personal life got into it. But I'm also not banking on WrestleMania. I don't have hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that are getting invested in me and in a story to only bow out. I don't want to take all of it. And then again, I told the fans to remember what I just said earlier in the show about, we're getting asses in the seats. There's been, I don't know if you saw that interview, but Dwayne talked about that shit too with, what fucking pay-per-view was it? Bad Blood, I think? Is it Bad Blood or one of the pay-per-views earlier this year when he came in and the
That
whole
was Bad Blood when he returned.
Yeah, okay, so Bad Blood.
That was 6 months ago-ish.
Yeah, and his whole excuse for him doing that whole bit was because they needed to put asses in seats. Like, come on now, Dwayne. And again, I'm talking to Dwayne. I'm not talking to The Rock. Come on, Dwayne. Again, if you're going to insert yourself into a storyline, fucking play it out. Don't play stupid and act like, oh, I had to do a movie. Bitch, you would have known that you were on the schedule for that film fucking months before. And then if it was something that came up, all right, you're committed to the wrestling thing already. Why are we we're the ones that made your fucking career. We made you who you were. So, okay, cool, I get you want to make movies, but if you scheduled that movie after you had already inserted yourself into the storyline in the WWE universe, that's a big fuck you to the fans.
So, again, a lot to unpack with that. I will start first. So, let's go back a year and a half. Let's go back to WrestleMania 40. Mm-hmm. At first, I didn't like because it felt like The Rock was getting pushed down our throats a little bit, especially when he was like, I'm going to main event WrestleMania. Now, did they flip that storyline around and actually wound up enjoying WrestleMania 40? Yes. I very much enjoyed it. I especially like, you know, it kind of played into The Rock being egotistical, and I think that worked out actually very well, especially like in the tag team match in night one, where he told the referee, "If you count, you're fired. I don't fuck around." I love
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
That was like heel Rock that made sense,
Mm-hmm.
and that is what I think made WrestleMania 40 kind of what it was. Now, and then it seemed kind of random that The Rock returned. It didn't seem like it really made sense. It seemed like it was more of a last minute thing, like, hey, show up kind of thing. And then he kind of reignited his feud with Cody after, like he got cheered on Raw and then like they're booed on Netflix or what. I don't remember. I don't remember what the whole thing was. But then he was saying, like, it doesn't matter if I'm a good guy or bad guy. I remember him saying that on NXT. And then they did the whole thing of at the Elimination Chamber where Cena turned heel finally,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was phenomenal. I think that is like if you look at like heel turns, I put that at number 2 behind the NWO and Hogan. I will say that's
Okay.
probably one of the best ones, I think. But then yes, like you have Travis Scott to show up at WrestleMania instead. Like I was expecting, okay, The Rock's got to show up. He's invested in this. Cody just told him to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's things that were building to it, and I do think that was a disappointment. I like that John Cena won. I think he should have won. I think it was the right time to break the 16 World Championship record, but that's for another time. So with that, like I was actually a fan of The Rock until like WrestleMania. Like I'm still a fan, but like I
Mm-hmm.
was liking what he was doing, but then him not being at WrestleMania, and again, I don't know the circumstances of why he wasn't there or if that was planned or not planned. We will never know.
See, and that's
But
the thing though. Like all they had to do was simply, instead of having Travis Scott come out, like when he came out, I thought he was going to get his epic receipt, and
yeah,
I don't feel like that was paid. But
a little bit.
secondly, I feel that all they had to do is, even if The Rock couldn't show up, just cue up his music. Just
It's
enough
true.
to cause a distraction to have Cody think, "Oh shit, he's here," and then have John Cena sneak the win and then get the win, and like I would have been satisfied with that. Because then you could have put, again, it's yes, Dwayne screwed the fucking WWE universe, but at least the writers were attempted to cover it up somehow. But instead, they're just like, nah, fuck it. Let's just get Travis Scott go out there and be a fucking buffoon, and then
Yeah.
we're good.
Now, I will say though, another thing I wish they would have done is when John Cena made his cut his promo of how the fans get nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and like it was just like the words John Cena, but
On
he
the
still
black
had his
background.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he still had his music. I think one thing that I think is underutilized is obviously music is a big part of wrestling,
Mm.
but there is times where there shouldn't be any music, and I think he should have walked down the ring, no music, black background, white words, John Cena. I think that would have made it even more of a powerful moment. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Again, I feel like the buildup was I had no problem with it. I agree with
Oh
you.
yeah, I agree.
I think that it's all great. It's the lack of him showing up after building that momentum, that just kind of, let's
Yeah,
just say there were other matches at WrestleMania that were way better, and I think it was because of that. It was underwhelming. Um, I actually preferred night 2 over night 1.
I agree.
Um,
I agree with that.
and people are gonna find out very quickly that I'm a Seth Rollins fan, like a lot. So there's reasons why I would choose night 2 over that. But I mean, uh, again, my hate for Dwayne Johnson is just that though. Like, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like Seth so much, and the way the way he does his promos is that I don't like wrestlers who talk about bleeding the business and being about the business, but then not putting the business as number one. Other things derail it, and they'll put their other projects ahead of the business. And I think that's why I like Seth so much. It's kind of why I like Drew too. I think Drew is one of those kind of guys too, where yes, he was on a losing streak for a while, and I call him the crybaby. He's known as a crybaby in our household, but he he does what he needs to for the business, and that's why I have respect for somebody like Dominic Mysterio. He bleeds the business. Um, and then again, Dwayne Johnson making excuses instead of just coming out and being 100% transparent with us, and making up these excuses. Because again, those feel like excuses. I haven't met one person that believes a fucking word that he said in that interview, about how it's a work and everything's a work and this and that. It's not. It's you covering your tracks and not taking accountability. And that's something that really grinds my gears in life in general, is when people lack accountability. And I think that's my biggest gripe with them.
Yeah, I can overall I can agree with that, and yeah, I think it was definitely a letdown at WrestleMania. Because to me, if someone told me to fuck off, like, you think I'm not gonna show up to beat you up? Come on,
Right? Or even just like I said, like if they would have just hit his fucking music, it still would have been disappointing because a lot of people were waiting to see him. But if they
oh
would have
yeah,
just hit his music and then, like I said, John Cena, that's how John won. I think it plays into the whole thing that John Cena's doing, because he could have cut the promo that following week and be like, yeah, you guys wanted The Rock, you're not gonna get The Rock. He could have played into that whole thing of what he's doing now. Like, he's trying to destroy wrestling, right? He's trying to dismantle what's been built because the fans don't deserve it. So even just hitting his music and then John cutting because John's I'm not a John Cena fan, but one thing I will say about John Cena is that motherfucker can cut a promo.
yes you can.
He is so good at that shit. I mean, I didn't really watch wrestling when he was in his prime, but I've seen a clip where he pretty much buried Roman Reigns in Roman's early career in a promo where he just shut Roman down. Roman had nothing to say. Look, he was gonna fucking cry. It's like, dude, you like completely shut that boy down. Like, John Cena is a master on the mic, and I think if you would have done that, it would have gave him so much more to work with, to where he could have spun it to make it make sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think they kind of dropped the ball this WrestleMania. I mean, it's so hard to follow. I thought WrestleMania 40, 91, 92, both very strong. I think they were phenomenal. Then you get to 41, and yeah, it was
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah, I think Cody got screwed. And yeah, I'm a fan of Cody. I'm not a huge fan of Cody. I liked Cody. I think he has great ringing ability. I think he's decent on the mic, minus the fact that my wife pointed out his lisp, and so now I fucking hear that all the time. But do I think he's the greatest wrestler in the stable right now? No. Do I find him entertaining? Yes. But I feel like he didn't deserve what happened to him, and I feel he got screwed, and I don't think it was deserved. But again, who his dad is, you can get into that into another episode. I think that's always just going to be something that kind of plagues him.
Yeah, I mean, we can keep kind of talking about it, but now we're kind of going more out into like the current story. We're not even talking about The Rock at this point. But
Yeah.
we got to save some ammo for the next podcast.
Oh, definitely. So we'll go ahead and move forward. If you got nothing else to say about Mr.
I think
Dwayne
we're good.
Johnson there.
I am curious. So obviously, well, I will. Unfortunately, I will disclaimer. Unfortunately, I will not be watching Saturday Night's Main Event live. I actually have to work tomorrow, so I will not be watching live. But I am excited because I think they got some great matches coming up.
Awesome. Well, I will say stay off social media then, especially if you follow anything WWE related, because they love to post spoilers literally the second someone wins. They post that shit on social media, and I hate it because sometimes I work as well and I'm not able to watch shit live. I got lucky and I have Saturday off this weekend, so I'm able to watch it with the family live. So I'll make sure not to spoil anything for you. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to make some predictions on Saturday Night Main Event. I have the list of the matches here, the lineup. And then after we do that, we are going to make our predictions on what we feel is going to be the weakest match of the night and the strongest match of the night. And it'll be interesting to come back and watch this episode later and see if we were right.
But for anyone watching, if you're watching after Saturday Night's Main Event has happened, please let us know in the comments if we were on target or completely wrong dumbasses. Let us know.
So the first one we're going to start out with is I just wrote these down. So in the order that I wrote it down, I don't know if this is the order that the card's going to be. But we're just going to go ahead and start with the one that I wrote at the top. And that is going to be Jey Uso versus Logan Paul for the World Heavyweight Championship. Who are you going for?
I think, and again, I'll see what you think on this, but I think it's obviously Jey Uso retaining. I don't think I think it kind of goes more personal I don't think they trust Logan Paul to be champion yet because people really don't like him. Like
Mm-hmm.
outside of WWE, he has like issues and lawsuits with people. So I don't think him winning. I think he's very talented. I'm actually a fan of him, of his athletic ability and his matches. I think he had a really good World Heavyweight title or WWE title match with Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia a while ago. I think he can really wrestle. I think he's crazy athletic. But I think his character and his perception and his PR outside of WWE is what hurts him from actually getting a WWE championship. That's just my take.
Interesting. I like that perspective. So mine is going to be I'm also going to go with a Jey Uso. I think it could go one of two ways. My predictions are is that Jey Uso retains because they are building that whole setup with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso, possibly bringing in a third guy. And as much as I don't want to admit it, I have a feeling Logan Paul has a chance of being that third guy. I don't think it's a great call, but the way that they're building things, the way that they're telling the story, it seems it makes sense, at least to me, that Logan Paul could possibly be that third man. Jey Uso wins, Logan Paul gets mad, is approached by Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, or even just Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman says, "Hey man, I can make a career. Look at my resume," and that's how Logan Paul gets kind of put into that fold. Or I could see Logan Paul winning, and kind of around the same realm, he faces Gunther, and that's how Gunther retains the championship again. People like Gunther as a champion. I personally, I want to hate Gunther. I want to dislike Gunther, but that dude can wrestle. I feel like he is the new generation William Regal. I don't know if that's a stretch, but I really feel like he has that Regal vibe. And again, I can see Logan Paul losing, and then that allows you could still kind of base something with Seth. I don't think it fits as good. I think if Jay wins, you have that you could continue to push that story. I think if they want to give the belt back to Gunther, I think that's how they would do it. Is because like I agree with you. I don't think they trust Logan at all to have that belt. So he'll have his little glory for a couple weeks, and then Gunther takes it right back. That story to me just seems boring. So I definitely am leaning more towards Jay winning, and then kind of playing out that whole faction kind of brawl, and seeing how that pans out. But yeah, that's my prediction on it. Jey Uso defeats Logan Paul.
So yeah, we're in the same boat with that one.
Definitely. So the next one we have is CM Punk, Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker.
So this one, I can. So honestly, on the surface, I can see either side winning, but I'm gonna go with. I think it's going to be Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, but I will say there's probably some shenanigans. I don't think it's going to be a clean finish.
I'm going to agree that I think it's Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, but for different reasons. Just because I'm a huge fanboy, I'm never going to root against my boy Sethy and one of my top favorite wrestlers right now, Braun Breaker. And I'm tired of people comparing him to Goldberg. He is miles better than Goldberg. I think he has what Goldberg didn't have, and that is mic skills and in-ring ability. That Frankensteiner thing that he does off the top rope. Goldberg
Don't tell Bill you said any of this.
Fuck Bill Goldberg.
Hey, we got to get Bret Hart on then. We could then you guys can have a great conversation.
Funny enough, I don't like Bill Goldberg, and me talking to Bret Hart over for any more than 30 minutes, I think would just be exhausting for me. But again, I'm not a huge fan of CM Punk. I like Sami Zayn. Truth be told, Sami Zayn is one of those guys that like every time when I started getting back into wrestling, every match that he had, I was like, I wasn't looking forward to it. But then he always surprised me because, believe it or not, he's kind of the opposite of Drew McIntyre for me. Like for me, Drew McIntyre has that it factor. You look at Drew McIntyre, he's got the physique, he's got the build, he's got killer fucking music, and he's got that presence. Whereas Sami Zayn, I hate his fucking music, I hate the way he looks, but the dude can fucking wrestle. I mean, his ring-in ability is phenomenal, and I dread watching his matches, but then when I watch him, I'm pleasantly surprised. So for that reason, I'm not a huge Sami Zayn fan. I do like Sami Zayn when he's with the Usos. I think he's fun that way. But overall, not really a CM Punk fan, not really a Sami Zayn fan. Outside of his ring ability, I think he's great. But yeah, when you put him up against two of my top wrestlers right now in the industry, I'm gonna go with Sethi and Braun.
Very good. But yeah, no, I think there's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a necessarily a straightforward match. I think there's gonna be some type of either Paul Heyman interference, and
What do you think? A
something,
third guy's gonna show up? Do you think?
or a third guy. I mean, I think there's gonna be some screwy going on. I don't think this is gonna be a clean finish.
Okay. Side note:
Yes.
I already mentioned earlier that Logan Paul seems like a person that could possibly be uh, in the fold, even though I don't think anybody really wants that. But it does kind of make sense the way they're doing the story. Who would you choose as a third man?
Well, so obviously, well, I don't think Hulk Hogan's on the table, but
Not gonna work for me, brother. That's a no.
yeah, exactly. So obviously, so I will say I like the pairing of Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. I'm also a huge Braun Breaker fan because the dude is just naturally athletic. He's so smooth with what he does, and he looks like it, and I'm sure it hurts. Whatever he does to people, I'm sure it actually hurts, but it looks like it hurts. It doesn't look soft when he's fighting you. So I like the pairing so far. I mean, personally, I would just keep it as a tag team to have Seth as a top guy and then have your muscle, your enforcer. But obviously, they're leaning towards a third guy, and obviously, we're probably going to see that coming up possibly this Saturday. So I would say there's quite a few people to pick from. I would say that would be really cool. I think.
But if I make it hard, you can only pick one.
Oh, I know. I'm getting. I'm gonna get a one, but I think one name that would be interesting because I think they're kind of not really like in the fold right now with like presentation wise, but I think it would be kind of cool. But also, I don't think he's worked out in other factions, and I think he's beefing with somebody right now. So I'm not sure how well this would work. But I'd like to see Karrion Kross with them. I think that would be really cool. I don't think it's going to work out because I think he's beefing with like AJ and he's doing that kind of stuff. I don't think it would work out, but I would love to see him. But I think he's on SmackDown, so I don't think they're going to pick him. So I would probably go. They're probably going star power. I would probably say a one that would probably make more sense, even though I don't like the person. Probably Logan Paul.
Yeah, see, I think this is why we work so well. Because that was my ultimate pick. I think Karrion Kross, especially after that whole rant that he did after WrestleMania, and that shoot that he did was fucking just beautiful. I think he works perfectly and aligns very well with his ideology with the way Seth is kind of running this. Seth is kind of doing this whole like almost cult leader kind of vibe, and I'm really fucking digging it. And I feel like Karrion Kross would play into that so well. You have the architect and brain of Seth Rollins. You have the muscle of Braun Breaker. You have Paul Heyman as the wise man, and then you have Karrion Kross, this dude that just likes to fuck with you mentally. He's got that mental game, and I think it would vibe very, very well with Seth.
Yeah, but now do I think that's going to happen? I don't think so. Unfortunately, I don't.
Yeah.
It would be awesome because I think he'd be like the wild card, the X factor of that group. Whatever, I don't know if they have a name for it yet, but I think it would be really cool. And I think he's a great wrestler. He just hasn't had a shot in WWE to really showcase that. He's kind of been thrown in like, oh, we need him here, or he's going to do this, or he's going to wear the suit of armor. And stuff like that just doesn't work. It just hasn't worked for him because they're trying to make him something that he's not. There's no like consistent like storyline with him. He kind of just gets inserted randomly. I wish it was his presentation was like better than what it has been because I think he's actually a great wrestler. He was Killer Cross in TNA. I like what he was doing. He basically showed up and hurt people. I like it. And I think that would match really well with what Seth and Braun are doing because they show up and hurt people.
And then you get the girl with it too. Like a lot of
Yeah,
people have been
Scarlett's
talking
wife.
about,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people have been wanting even a female to join. It's like, dude, with Cross, you get not only do you get a great personality with Cross, but you get a female too. So I think it's a win-win. But yeah, sadly, I think we're gonna get somebody that we're not gonna want, like a Logan Paul. And I mean,
I mean, I think it would be cool now that I'm thinking about it a little more. I think a Jimmy Uso would be cool because eventually, when like Seth versus Jay, if that were to happen, you'd have Jimmy on it, or they already kind of been beefing for however long. So I think it would be kind of cool. But again, I think I just love the tag team. I wish they
mhm.
would kind of stay with that personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it too. I mean, your third man is technically they have one in Paul Heyman, even though he's not a
Yeah,
wrestler. But I mean, you have that element there. But I think the reason why it might be taking so long is because I feel like they're trying to almost go evolution style, which we don't want a evolution 2.0. I would much rather have a Shield 2.0 than an evolution 2.0. You know what I
no,
mean?
and I will say like I'm not a huge faction guy myself.
Mhm.
I think they serve a purpose. But like if you look at like the NWO, one of my favorite factions of all time, probably my favorite. I will say I love Evolution. I love Bullet Club as well. But NWO is like the first of like that modern era wrestling faction that was mainstream.
Mhm.
Like obviously you grew up in the '90s. You see people with NWO shirts. Everywhere you went, there was an NWO shirt somewhere. But
Mhm.
like with that, the problem with that is you get too many people in, then like you all can't be NWO. I'm sorry, Vincent and VK Wall Street. No offense to them,
And Buff
but
Bagwell.
and I like Buff. I like Buff. But you get
It
people
should have
like
stayed. I agree, though. That should have stayed Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Hogan.
yep,
That's it. And then you have Eric Bischoff
yep,
basically being the Paul Heyman. That's the way it should have stayed. Even I would have been okay with even having X Pac. I mean, that dude's he's a faction jumper. But
yeah. It
I
made
think
sense for his character.
yeah. But having everybody else, I totally agree with you. And
Yeah,
and
you,
hopefully
you
they
got
don't do
Big
that with him.
Boss Man in there. You got, like I'm not kidding. I'm Big Bubba Rogers was there. So
Oh
like
man.
you got that, and then just all the offshoots, NWO Wolfpack, which by the way had a banger of a song. But anyway, you have that, and then you have NWO Hollywood, you have NWO Black and Red. You got all this stuff.
LWO, which still around at this point. I didn't even know that shit was still around, but Rey Mysterio has his little faction of the
You know,
LWO still. So,
yeah,
uh,
we got the LWO. You got was it the Juggalo World Order too? They
oh
were
lord,
like,
oh man,
but then my problem like with that is like now you see like every wrestling shirt or something like that is always like whatever World Order.
mm-hmm.
Like almost everyone has a shirt like that. Of some wrestler has their own like logo like that. It's either that or it's like a Bullet Club ripoff where they put like whatever club. I'm tired of seeing those two, like, because again, like those. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, I'm not calling anyone out, but like, and again, you want to make that stuff, go for it. But I think it's just so much that like those are some cool and they were unique when they were, but now everybody is doing it.
Yeah, it's just merch opportunities, man.
So but I will say, to be transparent with everyone, do I have an NWO inspired super cool radio shirt on my store? I do. Does it say World Order on it? It does not. It is blue instead of white.
um, so yeah, that's I would be okay with those two. If I can choose between having just those two, uh, or having the third man be Logan Paul, I would be cool with just them being the two.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's move on to the next match here, and that is John Cena versus R-Truth.
I mean, again, this is a Saturday night's main event. It's not like a pay per view. John Cena, all the way. I mean, I love R-Truth. I love what he's doing. It's cool that he's in that opportunity to face John Cena. I think honestly, I think it's gonna be a great match. But storyline wise, there's no way John Cena's losing.
Yeah, I think this is one of those matches that's just really left field. I think to me, this match just feels like a filler. Um, I love R-Truth. I loved him back when he was K Quick. And I
Kate
think
Crush too.
yeah, I think he's just he he has a fast lane to my funny bone, man. Like I think R-Truth is just amazing. Um, Having him face John Cena, I think, is hilarious because of the whole storyline of him looking up to John Cena and that being his favorite wrestler. It's kind of sad because it's almost like a crushing moment. But I think the interview that he did, I don't know if you saw that, but where he talks about facing John Cena, I think that promo was fucking done beautifully. It made me love R-Truth even more. And yeah, I'm pulling for John Cena on this one though. I think, like you said, I don't think John Cena's losing this match. Um, I'm hoping something wild happens because, like I said, this does just feel like a filler match to me. But
Hey, Travis Scott might show up.
oh Lord, my wife hates that
Too
Fiend
soon.
song.
Too soon.
My wife, every time that Fiend song comes on, she loses her mind. She cannot stand that song anymore.
No, I can't either.
So last match that showed up on the card for me was Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre. Who do you got? And this is a steel cage match.
So I will be honest with both. Again, not a knock on either of these guys. I just don't care for either guy personally. I don't think Damian Priest is. Yeah, again, I think wrestling wise, I think they're both fine, but they just don't stick out to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, I don't exactly. Again, I have not been watching as much, so I'm not exactly sure why they're even fighting. So I will say, because I'm trying to think who won, because they faced off at WrestleMania. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, I believe that was when they did that table spot.
that's right. Now, you see how memorable that was for me because I forgot.
Yeah,
I want to say, did Damian Priest win that one? No,
I
no,
bel
no, no, he didn't. It was Drew McIntyre.
did Drew? Oh
I
yeah,
think it was
Drew
Drew.
did win. Yeah, I think Drew did win.
Yeah, because Finn cost Damian Priest,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, because Finn's
Okay,
being a little bitch with that shit.
exactly. So, but since it's a steel cage match, and then Drew McIntyre lost to Mania, I will say he's going to. I'm going to say Damian Priest is going to win. But again, am I really looking forward to this match? Do I really care about this match? Am I invested in the story? I am not.
You know, I gotta agree with you on the investment of this. I actually am a fan of Damian Priest. I don't like the direction he is going with story as of right now. I feel like they should have kept him on Raw. I was really enjoying what they were doing with him and Rhea.
I think they should have teamed up more. I wish they would have.
Yeah, I think that they dropped the ball on that. I think they pulled. I feel like they felt the fans were getting tired of the Judgment Day versus Rhea and Damien. I was really enjoying that, and I feel
I
like
was too.
I think it would have worked with what they're doing now with the whole Finn and Dominic kind of thing going on. I
Yeah.
think you could have still had Damien and Rhea involved in some way. You could have had Damian Priest in fucking Dominic's ear as well. With all that, I mean, I really feel like Damien has that it factor. I know a lot of people joke and say he's like the Temu Undertaker, but he, yeah, I don't think he's being utilized very good right now. And same thing with Drew. I don't this beef between them two just doesn't make sense. These two guys are talented and can be in way better storylines. I don't think they're being utilized at all, and I think that's one of the reasons why people really don't give a shit. Damien should have never got moved to SmackDown. He should have stayed in Raw. And I think Drew should be beefing with somebody else. Honestly, I think if Drew and Karrion Kross had a fucking beef, I think that would have been
I'd
way
be more
more
interested in
entertaining.
that.
Yeah, because the the way Drew's character is and the way Karrion is, I think that it would have melded much better. But yeah, I not very excited about this match. I'm excited for the fact that both of these guys can work, and they're good in the ring. I think. Not excited for how it built up to it. So yeah, I'm gonna probably go with Damian Priest on this as well, just because I like seeing him win. But yeah, my opinion is put him back in Raw, let him work with Rhea again, and kind of build a story around those two again. I really do miss that. But yeah, so those are our matches. Those are our predictions. Our next thing is going to be, what do you think is going to be the weakest match of those matches?
I would say investment wise and like matches I would be looking forward to or not looking forward to. I mean, we already kind of covered it. I would say it's a steel cage match just because I'm just not interested in it. I don't think there's a good reason that they have been fighting to begin with, or have a steel cage match. I mean, I kind of get, I get the reason why, but again, I'm just not exactly looking forward to it. I don't really care who wins. I don't think it really matters who wins personally. So that's kind of, I would say for, again, I think, will the wrestling be good? Yes, I do think they're good wrestlers. I think the match would be good, but I'm just looking at it from a fan perspective. Is there any heat to this match? Is there any reason to invest my time in this match? If I were to watch, if I had to pick one match where I didn't care if I saw it or not, it would probably be that one.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that's going to be the opener for that night. So I'm going to go and pick, though, I think for the weakest match, I think it's going to be John Cena versus R-Truth. And again, based on what I said earlier, I feel like it's a filler match. Unless something crazy happens, we already know who's going to probably win that match. I think 99.9% of people are going to predict John Cena winning this match. It just doesn't make sense for him to lose. I mean, technically, R-Truth is maybe a mid-carder. Like, it just doesn't seem, as much as I love R-Truth, don't get me wrong, I just don't. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that exciting of a match. And then again, with R-Truth being a fan of John Cena, I just feel like there's some silliness that's going to be taking place. So to me, that's going to be the weakest. But I do still agree with what you're saying with Damian Priest. If I'm going investment wise, Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre probably will be the weakest at the end of the night. But honestly, I feel like if you're going to go with, even though you're not invested in the story, I think match-wise, I think you have two guys who are going to beat the shit out of each other, and that's where the entertaining factor is going to come from. So that's why I pick John Cena R-Truth over the Damian Priest McIntyre.
No, I can see, like, if we're just going pure wrestling, like, is there going to be an actual wrestling match? I think you are correct with that. But I kind of just, I'm a storyline guy. That is, you know, that I like. I mean, I love the pure wrestling aspect of it. Like, I really liked Punk versus McIntyre in a Hell in a Cell match. I thought that was bloody disgusting, and I loved it. But there's also a storyline with it. They had things that they were doing,
That
and I
build
just
up.
don't see that same level of build up with Priest and McIntyre.
Definitely agree. So with that being said, what do you think is going to be the strongest match?
I would say, again, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if this is like gonna be a Saturday night's main event that's really gonna stand the test of time that people are gonna want to watch years and years later. Do I see that? No, I will be honest. Now, I will say, story like the possibility for a good storyline coming out of this, plus based on their athletic ability, I will go Jay and Logan for it. I think it would be a good wrestling ability match. But again, I'm looking at all these matches, and I don't think there's not going to be one, at least in my opinion, that's going to stand out as this is going to be the match of the night kind of thing. I think they're all kind of just serving a purpose to get to Money in the Bank.
I 100% agree. I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like this is going to be a very lull pay-per-view. I don't feel like the card itself just is very, very weak. And I think the strongest I my pick for the strongest match is, I think, going to be the CM Punk Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker. One, just because I'm so invested in that faction building and that tension. I think even though I'm not a CM Punk fan, I feel like all four of these guys are very strong in the ring. They have very great promo skills, and like I feel about CM Punk like I feel about John Cena. Don't really care for him, but he's good on the mic. Dude can cut a promo. The dude can wrestle. He's getting a lot older, so he's not as good as he used to be, but the dude can still wrestle. And I think he's a great counterpart to Seth Rollins. So my pick is going to be that, but I do feel like Jay and Logan Paul is going to be great if we're going with the prediction that I had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the actual matches. I think this match is going to set the tone for future, if not the following Raw, the like you said, Money in the Bank. I think overall the CM Punk, Sami Zayn, Rollins and Breaker match is going to set something up. I think the following Raw is going to be fucking phenomenal, and this is just making that stepping stone for that, since they like to tell these long drawn out stories. And I agree with you. I think the Uso Paul match is going to set something up for Money in the Bank. What I hope doesn't happen, and I don't want to put this out into the universe, but what I hope doesn't happen is because Gunther is being such a pain in the ass right now with both of these guys, I'm hoping that they don't turn it into a triple threat. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. I'm hoping kind of if you are going to utilize Gunther and want to give the belt back to Gunther, I think you push Logan, and that's how you get Gunther back. Other than that, I feel that Jey Uso should still get that push because it fits with Seth Rollins wanting that belt. You know, you have to pay attention to every little promo spot every week. There's a lot of foreshadowing, and the fact that Paul Heyman had that discussion with Jey Uso, and he's had, I think, 2 or 3 discussions with Jey Uso about that belt in particular, and Seth Rollins needing to be able to have that belt because he can carry that belt. I feel like that is opening up the door for Logan Paul to join the faction because he takes the L, can't handle taking the L, and then you already have Sami Zayn and CM Punk, who Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker are facing, in Jey Uso's corner. So I feel like those 2 matches are going to be the strongest matches overall for the storytelling. So I 100% agree with you on your take with Jey Uso and Logan Paul.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm gonna call it how it is. This is just a vehicle to get to Money in the Bank. This is really, we're putting gas in for Money in the Bank. That's really like what this pay-per-view, the Saturday Night's Main Event, is. So we will see what happens. I think it's gonna be more set up than like actual matches. I think, you know, Cena versus R-Truth is gonna be more of like an angle to get to Money in the Bank.
Oh, I didn't even, you know what? You could be right there. Like, I'm over here looking at it as a filler match, but there might be something to that. Yeah.
So we will see. Do
Yeah,
we
dude.
have any idea what's going on with this? Of course not. But it would be interesting to watch this back in like a week or 2 and go, hey, those guys are right. And we'll go, yes, we are.
And I'd like to try to keep this, if you're cool with it, I'd like to try to keep this as forward moving as possible with this podcast. So I'd like to try to do another one of these before Money in the Bank. Give us some time to kind of watch it develop and see how it kind of goes. And maybe like a week before Money in the Bank, like we're kind of doing now with Saturday Night Main Event, try to get another podcast in and because like I said, it'd be nice to see where our predictions go. And if things change, we kind of flow with it and kind of give our predictions on Money in the Bank and where the stories are going at that point.
Yeah, I think it'll be awesome. I think love talking wrestling, hanging out with you, a lot of cool things, drinking hot chocolate. So it's all good.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because I'm sure as people were watching this, we're noticing I was picking up throughout this entire episode. I've been picking up multiple drinks. I have a can of water. I have a cup of black coffee. I have some tea in a bottle, and I have coconut water. And I've been drinking a little bit off of each one. So I don't know if you noticed that, but if you
it's funny now that you mentioned that.
So anybody notices that, you have a great eye.
So no, it's like I will say, like, so the reason for the hot drink, it is, I know it's almost June when we're recording this, and it is 55 degrees here in South Bend, Indiana.
I would love that, dude. It's like 106 where I'm at right now. So
no, it's not fun. It's been cold and rainy all week.
I'll take that over the hot ass sun. I work out in the elements, so I love the cold raininess over fucking hot sweating my balls off. Because if I'm cold, I can always put more clothes on, but when I'm hot, I can't get naked at work. I mean, I can, but I probably won't have a job.
That's how you get arrested, folks.
So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys didn't rage too much at our predictions and liked what we had to talk about. If you have a topic that you want us to cover in the wrestling world, let us know down in the comments and we will try to cover it. We want to try to do it to where we both pick 2 topics per episode to try to keep these short. 2 hours is kind of where I want to keep my max, and we want to try to keep it between an hour and an hour and a half, but pushing it maybe 2 hours, especially when we're talking pay-per-views and stuff, and we go on our little rants. I tend to kind of go a little bit long on those, but Thank you for coming, Matt. I really do appreciate all the wrestling talk with you, man. It's been fun. We haven't been able to talk in a while with my crazy work schedule and everything, and so it's been nice to sit down with you again, man. And I hope we can really push this podcast and have some fun with it. So thank you for being a part of it. And before we go, I'd like you to let everybody else know what it is that you do outside of this wrestling podcast.
Sure. So if you liked my takes on some stuff or enjoyed listening to me talk, I am the host and creator of Super Cool Radio. Got this hat. There it is. Right here. So what we do, we document the music scene through some in-depth interviews. I've interviewed obviously many musicians, some well-known ones, and some bands who I just really enjoy that I think that I want to share with other people so that they might enjoy their music as well. We got weekly interviews. I drop multiple interviews a week. If you head over to the Super Cool Radio YouTube channel, got all my content over there. Plus, follow on the social medias at Super Cool Radio SB, all that fun stuff. So if you like it, please just drop a subscribe or a follow wherever you are on social media. It helps out a lot. Plus, it's free. But also with that kind of, even not just for Super Cool Radio, but if you like any kind of podcast or any kind of creator, please support them, because that's what enables the creators to continue to make content. Because then, like, if they stop making content, I'm like, oh, I like their content, but if you never supported them, they're not able to continue making content. So please support the creators that you enjoy.
Couldn't have said it better myself, man. Something that people may not know is that we came up in the podcast world together. You were already doing podcasting stuff when I got into the game, and we had a little group at one point of podcasters. And sadly, a lot of those podcasters are not podcasting anymore. They went back to their normal jobs. Whether it be because the pandemic was over and they had to go back to full-time work, or they lost interest because they were making stuff and they just felt like no one was watching. It does take a lot of work to do a lot of this. A lot of the podcasters that I know, we're doing all of this 100% on our own. We don't have a team. We're doing it because we love doing it. And, I think that's one of the reasons why Matthew Thomas has been around for so long. I've been around for so long, is because we enjoy what we're doing, and we love making content. But if you enjoy what we're doing, then that's the best way to show that you love what we're doing, is showing that support and simply subscribing, giving us a follow. If you're shy and you don't want to talk, we completely understand, but that subscribe and that follow does go a long way in breaking us into the algorithm and getting more eyes on us so we can continue to do that content that you love. With that being said, I started Brutal Block, and that's one of the reasons why me and Matthew Thomas have been so tight and so close in our business relationship. Brutal Block did start on Super Cool Radio at one point, and then it kind of moved and became its own thing. Not because I didn't want to be a part of Super Cool Radio, but it was more of Spotify was kind of getting in our ass and was making it not fun for us to put out stuff because they were taking shit down. And I didn't want to hurt Super Cool Radio's reputation, and I didn't want ultimately to have Super Cool Radio taken down because of what I was doing and what I was creating. So I moved away, but we still consider Super Cool Radio a brother podcast brand platform. Brutal Block continues to give them a shout out in every episode. I consider Matthew Thomas and Super Cool Radio one leg of my tripod that is Brutal Block. At the end of my shows on Brutal Block, I always say the fans are one leg, the bands are the other, and Super Cool Radio and Matthew Thomas is that third leg. And we need all three legs for that tripod to stand. So if you like metal music, you like underground music, you want to discover new metal music, then head on over to Rumble and look up Brutal Block, and I'll put all the links down in the description if I can. I got to make a new YouTube account for this channel, so it might take a couple days before they let me put a bunch of links. But as this show progresses, just know that there will be links down in the description. I'll have Super Cool Radio there, I'll have Brutal Block, and everything else that we do. But if you want to check out full episodes of those metal shows, I do 13 bands every episode. And if you want to check out some new metal bands, then check out Brutal Block. We have to do it on Rumble because on YouTube, on Spotify, it gets taken down. So Rumble right now is the one place. It's like the Wild West when it comes to that metal show. If you're a fan of like Headbangers Ball or Uranium, I think you're going to like Brutal Block. On top of that, I do have a YouTube presence, and that one I basically react to metal bands that have been on the show. I break down why I think the band is cool and what really draws me into why I like that music and that particular track. So if you want to check that out, head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Brutal Block there. We do have a social media presence on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us all on that stuff. I also do a podcast called The Cognitive Discourse, which I haven't done in a while, but it's just me just kind of talking about societal stuff, society as a whole, and how I view society. And if you're kind of a sensitive person, you might not like that one, but if you like that type of stuff, head on over, check that out. I have a YouTube presence as well. Like I said, I haven't done it much, but with my work schedule, I'm trying to get back into doing social media stuff. But right now, I really want to focus on Brutal Block, and I want to focus on this. I really enjoy wrestling, and I kind of want to make this a thing. With that being said, we also have a podcast called Basic Ass Dudes, which is also on Rumble. The YouTube page got taken down, but I'm going to work on trying to bring that back. And we talked wrestling there. We talked about pop culture stuff, but we're going to try to just do a podcast where we just have fun and just dudes talking shit and shooting the shit. Matthew Thomas is one of the guys that loves to be on that show. So we're going to try to bring that back. I don't know if I'll have a link down in the description just yet, but there's one more person that we want to add to fill that triple threat team, if you will, for Basic Ass Dudes. So keep an eye out for that as well. If the other guy agrees to that, we're definitely going to bring another man into the fold and hopefully be able to do some more Basic Ass Dude stuff. But I'm all over social media, man. I do all kinds of shit. I'll have all the links down in the description. And yeah, man, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this. I hope you guys had fun. I know I did. I know Matthew did, because me and Matthew could talk forever. But yeah, thank you for watching. And hit that subscribe button if you like it, because we're going to be trying to do a lot more of these. And it's going to evolve as we go once I make a logo and music and all that fun stuff. But we're going to try some things a little different, because the reason why Basic Ass, I don't know if people know this, but I don't even know if I told you, Matt, but the reason why Basic Ass Dudes got nuked off of YouTube was the way I was editing, I was getting a little bit too crazy with the editing, and I was using too much WWE stuff, and WWE said, nope, not today, and they're the ones that got my channel nuked.
Shows how great of a relationship we have with WWE.
So yeah, with that being said, if this one is not going to be as fun at editing wise as the old show was, I kind of have to tone it down a little bit, because I don't want this show to get nuked. I do have fun talking wrestling, but this show is going to be more of just us talking. The other one, I think I just used way too many clips. I would pull little memes of like The Rock saying "shut up, bitch," and I would pick up clips of Stone Cold and stuff, and I would put memes basically throughout the show. And I think I just got carried away, and they didn't like that.
Yeah.
But thank you again, Matt. We'll try to schedule this again for another one. And until then, like I said, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.